Be it the Virgin New Adventures or the BBC Eighth Doctor Adventures, the Doctor Who books of the 1990s have left a legacy. But in this video I'm going to ask, how much of a legacy? How were they instrumental in keeping Doctor Who alive during the 1990s, and how did they influence the modern series of Doctor Who? Now, to understand this, we have to first look back at the publication history of Doctor Who and their target range. Now, luckily enough, I have a video about that you can go and watch, but I will give the quick up and down of it. So a big key to Doctor Who's success from the 1970s onwards was the abundance of novelisations that came out, with the Target range starting in 1973. Now, throughout that time, Target would make novelisations of almost every single classic story ever put to paper, and they were incredibly successful. This would continue until the early 90s, where Target were folded by Virgin Publishing, though Virgin continued this range for a couple of years. Now, there was one problem with this. Despite the stories becoming incredibly popular, there was only so many stories in the backlog left, as Target had done most of them. But then, in a stroke of genius from Peter Darvill Evans, he asked the BBC if he could create some original Doctor Who stories set just after the conclusion of the TV series. And initially, he was told no. But because the show ended in 1989, he was able to obtain the license just after that. Starting off with the Time Wirren stories, the Seventh Doctor was able to get some extended adventures along with Ace. Now, a lot of things happened over the course of these stories where we were introduced to such characters of the future as Bernice Summerfield, and a new and improved version of Ace, where she got a stark amount of character development. Looking in at nearly 40 stories, this run of adventures would end with the novelisation of Lungbarrow, followed by the only Eighth Doctor story they published. Now, it was around this time in 1995-1996 where the BBC reacquired the license and were able to publish some of their own original adventures. Being titled The Eighth Doctor Adventures, or EDAs, these stories ran for many, many years, nearly a decade in fact, winding up in 2005 with one subsequent follow-up book in 2006. Now, you'll notice one thing about the timeline that I mentioned there. It was during the time where Doctor Who wasn't on the air. During that time, as you can see here, throughout the entirety of that decade, there wasn't too many ways to actually consume new Doctor Who content. You would get one television movie, you would get spin-off appearances made by BBV and other companies, but then the only official Doctor Who continuation really was the books. Without having any real evidence to back this up, I can almost guarantee you that this was a big cause for Doctor Who retaining some of its key fan base during the 90s. But this set of novelisations was good for more than those reasons alone. It was also a way for a lot of Doctor Who's new series writers to actually get into the show, as some of the prevalent figures from Doctor Who's modern history got their start writing during this era, with Russell T Davies, Mark Gatiss, and Gareth Roberts being just a few examples. We'll just skim over the fact that Moffat said that he didn't really like them. Yeah. That being said, the legacy of these books is actually bigger than just the fanbase that it retained. It also went on to influence some of the modern series, and I'll show you a direct example right now with this story right here. Does it look familiar? Human Nature and Family of Blood was directly taken from one of the novelisations, and it is said that more recently the plot for The Timeless Children reveal was heavily inspired by the book Lungbarrow. Now, it is definitely questionable as to whether or not these books are canon. What is not questionable is how important these books are to the survival of Doctor Who and to the modern adaptation of Doctor Who, whether it be because they helped cultivate some talent or because they helped keep a fan base interested. Now, with that, I would like to say a big thank you to everybody who's still enjoying this series. I also want to take a minute out of this video to announce that I'm probably, from this point on, going to focus a lot less on the book range of Doctor Who and try and make more general lore videos. If part of the video requires me to talk about books a little bit, I probably will. But what I'm saying is that I'm going to be covering more generally, so I'm going to cover some more New Who stuff, some more in-canon stuff to try and explain a few things and see where we go from there. I hope you've enjoyed, guys, and see you all soon.